So I think if we sang to her, they'd probably send her over the edge. But I did want to let you know that the new Murrieta magazines are out and available. We have them at City Hall. I would have loved to have brought a couple of boxes this morning, but I think each box weighs about 50 pounds, and that was just beyond me this morning. So if you could stop by City Hall, or if you want me to take some over to you, just let me know. They are out at City Hall, and they are 68 pages of Murrieta bliss, so please pick one up. We did have the State of the City last week. We had about 400 people attending. It was a great event. We were all very pleased with how that turned out. Mayor McAllister delivered a wonderful address about the city, and we're looking forward to next year's State of the City already, so we'll let you know about that. It will soon be on the website. We're working with our videographer. He is editing together. He had 3 cameras there to videotape the speech. And today at Temecula City Hall, we had, I don't know how many people showed up there, 200, 300, 400. It was quite a big event. It started at 10. People started arriving at 8. So, you know, the economy still needs to right itself a little bit more for some of these people out there. We did just recently start a business incubator in the city of Murrieta. We have 1 company in there so far, T3D. They are a software development company, phenomenal company. A business incubator is a mechanism to try and help accelerate businesses to grow. So it's something when we're trying to attract businesses, and particularly technology companies here, something that people want to see that we have. It's something that they had in the Silicon Valley, which was one of the reasons why so many of those tech companies started up there. We are going to be getting ready for ICSC is our next thing. ICSC is the International Council of Shopping Centers, and it's where we go to talk to people like Trader Joe's once again and try to convince them that they need to come to Murrieta. We'll just keep trying. We'll keep trying with some of the retailers like that. So we'll be heading to ICSC soon. So that's about it. Thank you.
One of the reasons I got involved in politics in Murrieta was because of the lack of infrastructure in our community 10 years ago. And I always tell the story that the first 3 months I lived here, I had 3 flat tires on my car because the road around my house was not finished, and I kept getting flat tires. And I thought, well, this is not the way it's supposed to work. When I was mayor last year, I had signed 2 CIP budgets, capital improvement budgets. One at the beginning of the year was for about $100 million, and then the one at the end of the year, which we redid, was about $125 million in infrastructure and capital improvements in our community. So I'm very happy to say, if no one has noticed, the southbound ramp of the county on the 15th is open. You're exiting off on the new off-ramp. Tomorrow, the northbound ramp of Calmia on the 15th will be open. In May, we expect to have the loop ramps completed, and you will be able to access the northbound and southbound via the loop ramps in May, sometime in May, maybe the end of May, and then we expect for the bridge to be completed in the month of August. So when you look at the city of Murrieta and people complain about traffic, yes, we have traffic, but we are working very hard. We are working with Caltrans, we are working internally, and we are spending a lot of money to make sure that the infrastructure is being built in this community. And I am very, very proud of what our council and what our staff and what our community has done for the infrastructure in Murrieta. So I just wanted to say that. I'm very happy about that. So when you leave here today, go north, climb the peak, make a right, get on the freeway, and then come back and get off around
My name is Matt Schobert, and I am your fire chief, and I'm pleased to announce that Monday will be my 1-year anniversary as your fire chief. And a quick bio on me, I've been in the fire service for about 27 years. I started my fire service career in Tucson, Arizona, spent about 14 or 15 years there, and went up to Sedona, Arizona as the deputy fire chief for a few years, where I was eventually promoted to fire chief. And all in all, I spent about 9 years in Sedona. And 4 years ago, I took a job in Hemet as the fire chief in Hemet. And I'll bet probably 100 times over the past couple of years, I've been asked, why in the world would you leave Sedona to go to Hemet? I finally haven't answered that question, because that is the career path I needed to take to get to our career. Let's talk a little bit about our fire department. And You know, your charter as members of the chamber really focuses on customer service. And in the fire department here, having been the fire chief for 3 different agencies, I've never been around a more classy and professional group of firefighters. And there's been several cases where I don't find out about what they do until after the fact, because in many cases the excellent customer service that they provide is really focused on those day-to-day operations that I don't get too involved with. But I'd like to share 2 stories that have come to my attention 4 to 6 weeks after they actually occurred. And the first was on December 12th, an elderly gentleman on the Hot Springs was hanging his Christmas lights up on a step ladder in front of his house. And something happened, things didn't go right. He fell off the top of the ladder and fractured his pelvis in 3 places. His elderly wife called 911, the engine went out, treated his injuries, assisted getting him onto the ambulance, and off he went to the hospital. And I didn't find out, like I said, 4 or 6 weeks later, in the customer service survey, if any of you had to call 911, we followed that up with a survey to find out how we did. Because if we didn't do a good job, I need to know and we need to fix that. But in the survey that came back, the elderly woman in that elderly writing explained in her narrative that the crews came out, they were quick, Johnny on the spot, did a great job comforting not only her husband, the patient, but her emotional issues dealing with what she was part of. And then she wrote that after the ambulance left the scene, the crews stayed on scene and completed hanging her Christmas lights. So I'm super proud of this fire department. They provide a great service to our city. And right now we're unveiling some things to try and maintain those service levels. But first and foremost, I'd like to talk to you about your businesses. If there's anything we can do to support your business and make you safer, we'll be glad to do that. I have a stack of business cards that I'll leave up here somewhere on the table here. And if you'd like us to come out to conduct some fire extinguisher training or earthquake preparedness training, we'll be happy to do that. We can condense it to 10 or 15 minutes, and we can do it for 3 people, or we can do it for 50. It's up to you. But if you do monthly training programs and you need a 15-minute filler or so, we're happy to accommodate that need. Recently, last month, we got notified from the federal government that we received a grant for about $376,000 to replace the heart monitoring equipment on our fire trucks. The equipment we currently have is about 8 to 10 years old and is in need of replacement. It still functions, but as we know with technology, it improves over the years. And the equipment that we're in the process of procuring will actually have the ability from your residence, if you're having a heart attack, we can send your heart rhythm to the hospital. And so when you're transported to the hospital, eventually we'll be able to bypass the emergency room and route you right into surgery, because the physicians at the hospital are determining exactly where the problem is in your heart and preparing the operating room and whatnot. So we can save, a half hour off your surgery time. So it's a pretty amazing program that we have going on there. Regarding some of the articles that have been in the paper regarding ambulance service and our structural budget deficit within the department, they're somewhat linked together. And while our commentary has been bold and honest, it's nothing against AMR. They do a fine job for our city. The point to be argued is we could use more of them. And case in point, we've been pointing out since August that over on the west side of our city, the ambulance response times to that area are not what I would deem effective. The stated goal is 9:59, 10 minutes, 90% of the time. And on the west side, that's only being achieved about 40% of the time. I've met with the officials, and their initial solution to that problem was to move the ambulance off of Cal Oaks to the west side, and while that solves the problem over here, it creates another problem over here. So we're working real hard to fix that issue, and along with that, we're trying to maintain the services that we have, because we do have a structural deficit with our budget. What have we done to solve that? We've done several things. We've reduced our staff by 7 personnel. Our budget's been reduced by upwards of 18%. And we've really eliminated all the budgetary issues that don't impact services, boots on the street. But we're to the point where if we don't work at solving this problem over the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to become a critical issue that we're going to have to address with drastic measures. And one of the reasons that we're in this problem is our financing structure. It's primarily based on property tax, and as we're all familiar, those dollars have dropped off by upwards of 30% over the past 3 or 4 years. Additionally, we have the rooftop assessment, which was implemented in 1981 to support an upstart volunteer department transitioning into a career department. In about 2000, we added paramedic services for our community. Very expensive program, but certainly at the time, in a booming city, in a booming economy, we could afford to do that. And mainly that was implemented because if you call 911, we will be at your doorstep within 5 or 6 minutes most of the time, depending on where you live in the community. And as I mentioned before, if you're having a heart attack or a stroke and you need that advanced care, the ambulance response time goal is 10 minutes, 90% of the time. So, and we talk about, well, what's the importance of a minute or two. Clinical death starts to occur within 4 to 6 minutes after the medical issue occurs. So time truly is of the essence. So one of the things that's on the table right now in design phase, in the proposal phase, is a paramedic subscription program. It's optional, an optional $48 a year subscription program to essentially help support the continuing health, safety, and welfare of our community through support of the paramedic program. Basically, we're asking the community to support that program, to support their fire department. The leverage, I guess, as it's been called, is if the individual doesn't pay, or if the residents don't pay that $48 subscription, the proposal on the table is there will be a $350 fee for paramedic response from the fire department. Which, if you read the papers and read the blogs, has caused a little bit of controversy. And some have said, we have to live within our budget, you need to live within yours. Well, I assure you, we will live within our budget. If we don't find some supplemental income to support this program, it's going to result in a decrease in services, or potentially a fire station closure. So with that, I'll see if there's any questions regarding those issues or any others. I'd be happy to answer. Yes, ma'am.
How do you propose to collect that $48? Are you going to have an issue, a ballot issue on this, or are you just going to ask the community to come forward and donate?
It's a voluntary subscription program, so at least at this phase, it won't be a ballot initiative. It would be strictly a voluntary program.
How do we subscribe? Do we call the fire department?
No, it will be. We'll be proactive on that front, and we're still working out the details and how we're going to do this and when we're going to do that. And it certainly has to have community approval as well. But eventually, the plan is that the residents would receive the $48 bill once a year from the fire department.
Okay, so I have a question. What happens if I'm in a car accident? Will that cover me in a car accident? Do you think that?
Yes, for the residential subscriber, the $48 would cover all members of that family and visitors to your residence if you have some visitors over.